Welcome to Uncharted and Unfiltered, the journey back to you. I am Cynthia Jameson, your host, and this is where we break free from the noise and dive deep into what truly matters you. If you're tired of the shoulds, the expectations, and the pressures to fit into a mold that doesn't serve you, you're in the right place. This isn't a podcast about easy answers or sugar coated advice. This is your invitation to reclaim your path, embrace the unknown, and become the bold, unapologetic version of yourself that's been waiting to show up. It's time to get unfiltered. Let's get started. Hello, hello, and welcome back to Uncharted and Unfiltered, a journey back to you. I'm your host, Cynthia Jameson. And if you are a regular listener, you might have noticed that this episode is landing later than usual. And that's because I was doing something for the first time this morning, something that was important, meaningful, and a little nerve wracking. So, if you have been listening, you would know that I have been training for the method um, through the Institute of Intuitive Intelligence, and today was my assessment. And even though I felt prepared, even though I've read all the material and done the work, I still woke up multiple times during the night, my heart racing, my mind spinning. And each time I've talked about EFT tapping, each time I tapped on my heart just to calm my nervous system, and then I was able to drift back to sleep. So that's a beautiful tip right there in and of itself. And this morning, as I got ready, I found myself leaning on a framework that my client and I co created yesterday during her coaching session. It's so funny how life works like that. Or is it? Maybe it's all just divinely guided. But in our conversation yesterday, my client was stepping into a new leadership role. They were taking on responsibility for a team of seasoned professionals. And after we got done congratulating her and celebrating all of that for her, which was amazing, I asked her how she was feeling. And she said to me, and maybe I can bring up the words in the way that in the way in the energy that she said it, but she's like, I have to nail it. Like she leaned into the screen. I have to nail it. I have to kill it. I can't mess this up. Now that phrase, even though she was excited, right? That phrase landed with so much apprehension, with so much, mm, what is the word? What is the word? Pressure. Pressure. The word is pressure. Because what my client was feeling in that moment was all of this like expectation that she needed to know everything right now and it had to be perfect. And there was no room for error in there. There was no room for anything not to happen other than things to be perfect. Right? There was no room to grow. There was no room to learn in what she was saying. And so I just think that's so important because that is how a lot of us feel when we face something new. And our brain does what our brains do because our brain is trying to keep us safe. And so in her case, her brain was sending her so many signals. You need to figure out feedback frameworks. You need to figure out expectations. You need to figure out responsibilities. You need to figure out a transition plan. Like there was all this stuff happening in her mind that was creating and adding to the pressure that she was feeling, which then culminated in words like, I have to nail it, I have to kill it, can't mess this up. And so I paused and I asked her this question: what if this wasn't something to kill, but something to grow? And that one question shifted everything. Because then we were able to start talking about leadership as a garden. And what I didn't know is that she is a gardener. I am not a gardener, but she is. And so immediately she started talking about how this would be like tending to different plants, each with their own weeds, or not weeds. Well, yes, weeds, but each with their own needs. Some of them need more sun. Some of them would need more water. Some of them don't want to be touched every day. Some of them want to be misted. How she started talking about how each team member needs something different. And of course they do, because we are different. She talked about how growth takes time, attention, and care. It's not like if I decide today that I'm going to be a gardener today, I'm getting my team today, everything isn't going to be like flourishing at the onset of that. And so I thought that was so beautiful. And it allowed her to soften. Again, starting describing her team like a gardener that is aware, a gardener that is observant, and a gardener that is responsive. And she already knew how to lead. She just hadn't seen it in this way before. And from there, she created something that she's called the plant framework, which is a way of leading that's rooted in presence, not pressure. And I want to be able to share that with you. So, what I'm going to do is for each of the letters, so I'm going to start with P. P is pause and get present. This is a chance to prepare the soil for a fertile environment for shared growth. The L in the framework is about listening generously, about their motivations, their strengths, their sensitivities, their patterns, as well as listening to their nonverbal signs and cues. What is not being said? Right? And in the gardening metaphor, this is noticing the yellow leaves or the rotting roots or, all of the different things that are happening that are showing up in your garden and tending to them. The A is about asking questions. For example, how do you like to receive feedback? What do you need from me as your supervisor? What are your goals? What's working? And what might feel a bit off? Again, some need sunshine, others shade. Some grow wild, others need pruning. Leadership begins with seeing people clearly. And it's also about acknowledging growth. This is the opportunity to recognize their wins, their effort, their potential, and make that specific and reinforcing. It's such a beautiful opportunity to reflect greatness back to them as a team. For her as a mentor, as a leader, as a leader who's taking a coach approach to the work and how she's showing up, it's believing in their capabilities and helping the team tap into their best qualities. Now, the N in the plant framework is about naming what matters, naming what is getting in the way of the potential. That could be process, it could be issues, it could be behavior, it could be patterns, it could be unclear goals, it could be there's so many things that it could be. And using curiosity before critique or criticism and really leaning into like what might be creating friction here or resistance here. Weeds do not mean failure. They are part of gardening, so let's expect them. Sometimes I think we just get surprised at things we probably shouldn't be surprised at. And when we respect that the weeds do show up, then we respect the process, which is really about addressing the issues early and giving people a chance to adjust themselves, adjust their style, and grow. And the last initial in the framework is T, which is about tending with intention and care, setting the tone for mutual respect, ownership, and partnership. This is co creation, growth plans, shared success, and like asking questions like, how do you want to grow? How can I support you in a sustainable way? This client of mine, she's building a garden, not a project plan. Her goal is a flourishing team where each person adds value to the business, to themselves, and sees that value mirrored back to them. And this also includes her. And so I thought this was such a great coaching session. Please forgive me for any words that I'm wrapping around my tongue today because I have been up since 4:30 this morning. And so I will appreciate a little bit of a sleep in next week. But this was such a gift. And it turns out that this framework also supported me just as much as it supported her in creating it yesterday. So this morning, before my assessment, I paused and I got present. I listened to what was happening in my body. instead of overriding it. It had some messages for me. It was concerned and worried that I was putting myself in a new space, that I was putting myself in a vulnerable position, that, oh no, what would the feedback be like? And then I asked myself what I needed to feel steady, which for me was to remind me of my intention to serve at the highest and best good for the client that I was about to meet and serve. That's what I needed. I needed to let go and get out of the way. And I needed to be, from a like the plant metaphor, the N, I named what mattered, which was being in integrity, staying connected, and doing it scared. It was like, it's not about the fear. It's not about me. It's about my client. And then I tended with care. I let myself breathe. I let myself be. And so this episode is for both of us. It's for anyone who's doing something new, anyone who's doing something important, something that feels like it might have to be perfect when really it just has to be honest. And there is no one better than you to do it. And so here's my coaching question for you today, my prompt for you. What are you stepping into today? Where might you be gripping too tightly? And how could plant support you as a leader, a parent, a creative, a human? Because here's what I know for sure. You do not have to kill it to lead well. You just have to show up, plant your presence, and trust the growth will follow. With that, thank you so much for being here. And thank you to my brave client who reminded me that leadership isn't about performance, it is about presence. Have an amazing week. And until next time, tend your garden well. Take care. I hope that you're walking away feeling more aligned with your true self, more confident in the choices ahead, and ready to leave the safe path behind, knowing you've got everything you need within. Remember, the journey to you isn't about finding one perfect direction. It's about trusting yourself enough to explore all of it. If you're ready to dive deeper, join me for the next episode and don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss the next step on your path. I invite you to join my mailing list at www.cynthiajamesoncoach.ca, where we'll deepen our relationship and you can claim your copy of Your Inner Compass, a guide to charting your course to authenticity. Until next time, stay unfiltered, stay true, and most importantly, stay you.